Okay, hello everybody. It's rainy and it's windy. I'd like to walk, and but I'll do it in the car. A little kind of update. I'm laughing, I listen to the news. I read the news. I myself this morning read the news, and John Brennan, who's the former CIA director, and for people that don't follow all this, a lot of the people we refer to sometimes as deep state, but really what it means is people that were in FBI, Justice Department, that they did a lot of things that they felt were kind of noble. And maybe they felt it was good to really make sure Mr. Trump doesn't get in. Well, what we have now found out at all this time that these people, including, I hate it when people park next to me like that. These people, what they have been doing is investigating Mr. Trump. And most of you are familiar with the so-called Russia investigation, collusion and all. The last few days, what's come out was they kind of really went overboard and had particular people sort of not so much as spies, but they were undercover people working with the FBI and Justice Department. And they were really making contacts with Trump and his people. All right. And it seems as if they crossed some serious lines in the sense that it was during a campaign. And if you have one party and also their Justice Department, FBI, and all, which was the Democrats, if you find serious crimes to the level that you have undercover operations, spying, and so forth, that has to be real high crimes. And that criteria was not met here. All right. Now, in this whole investigation, uh, Congress and Devin Nunes and others, they began requesting, wait a minute, we want to look at all of the official documents that began these investigations. Well, it seems as if that a lot of wrongdoing was done. And so men like John Brennan, James Clapper, people that were in heads of the intelligence agencies and the CIA, obviously, if they were doing all this, which they were texting, talking back and forth, and some of that has come out. Like people with the FBI had said, we must put Andy's plan in place, meaning if Trump ever gets elected and we got to do whatever we can, referring more than likely to Andrew McCabe, who is now shown to have committed multiple crimes, yet they're not going after them. Well, today, the tweet from John Brennan, I believe that's obstruction of justice. I believe there's enough for a warrant to be issued on John Brennan today and for him to be arrested. Because what John Brennan tweeted was he's one of the people that's now afraid that they're going to get exposed for criminal activity. Because Mr. Trump tweeted yesterday, I'm going to order the Justice Department, I'm going to demand the Justice Department to begin an investigation if there was any political motivations in all of this. Obviously there were. And Brennan and Rod Rosenstein, by the way, he said, yes, we're going to look into it. He's under pressure too. And Brennan, one of the people that's part of this investigation, meaning they're going to investigate what went on behind the scenes. John Brennan tweeted openly on his Twitter account. He made somewhat of a threat to Republican leader Ryan and Mitch McConnell, leader of the House and of the Senate and the Republican majority. And he said, basically, if you don't do something to stop this, that's enough, because he is also a subject of this probe that they're going to do, that he committed obstruction of justice. That's a more serious crime than when they went into the home of Paul Manafort at 2 in the morning, frisked his wife in bed, and did a raid like that. What Brennan did, and this ain't the first time this man has done it, and we have to sit back as like we're the public and we're saps. That's what they view us as. And I understand these men, James Comey and all these men, they have presented themselves as noble warriors that for whatever reason in their minds, they said, we're going to stop the Trump thing. Now today, as all of this is now being exposed, because it is serious, and they're giving a narrative. James Clapper, yesterday or this morning went on CNN. One of them, I think he works for CNN, and he said, and there was also an article written in one of the major newspapers that said, "You got this all wrong." Yes, in essence, we did have spies, or we did have these contacts, but it was to protect Mr. Trump from any Russian interference. Now, your media is telling you that today. All of this behind the scenes and these illegal contacts or these spyings was to protect Trump from Russia. Why is that such a crock? Because if I retold the story quickly, the way they were protecting Mr. Trump and not carrying out their agenda was they actually had a low-level campaign man that worked for Trump by the name of George Papadopoulos. And they actually had a sting operation where they had the connections to people in London, spies and all, that worked with our undercover agencies, and they made him an offer. Come over here and write a paper about various things. It was a setup. And when this man, George Papadopoulos, got to London, a man by the name of Mifsud, which the media is not reporting a lot, part of this thing, he himself approached this man, this Trump worker, and said, "Do you know that the Russians, we have knowledge." He pretended he's part of the Trump people, telling a real Trump person, "We have knowledge that the Russians hacked Hillary Clinton's emails." And they pushed this. And then this man, they were all there to see if they could get him to say something. And they got him drunk. Who knows, maybe he was sober for 5 years. They said, well, the guy's sober. Let's get him drunk. Let's get Papadopoulos drunk. We got to get... And then he spills the beans. And you say you were doing all this to protect him? You had an agenda that you felt was noble, and you crossed many lines. And what does your local media, which is part of the national media, what do they care about this? Are they saying any of this? No, they're too busy with their own collusion and corruption and everything else. There's a white truck behind me. I see it right now. The local media, they got their own corruption scandals. They probably contacted that guy that, put out a hit on this Italian. This guy's from New Jersey. He's an interloper. Just go ahead and take him out. All right, we'll set it up. We'll take John out. We'll have him shot. And then the plane don't go through, and the hitman gets back, and they, call the Times or whoever's colluding. How'd it go? The guy's nuts. He almost ran us off the road. So that's your Colder Times, that's real media reporting. The thing that Clapper and the thing that Brennan tweeted today, that's not the first time he's kind of made threats to Trump or his team or Republican leaders in Congress. That's enough for this man, Brennan, who also was caught up in other things in the past as well as Clapper, lying publicly to Congress and all, which are criminal acts that you're convicting others on. What happened in all of this is now a lot is coming out that they did behind the scenes. And now the media is presenting it like, oh, no big thing. No, it is a big thing. It's a big thing that in this country, any political party that's in power can politicize the FBI, the Justice Department, these branches of spy agencies, and for them behind the scenes to do something like this, and then to go on TV today and say, we were protecting Trump. Why didn't you have a spy, if you will, in the Hillary campaign to protect them from the Russians? It had nothing to do with protection. It had everything to do with an agenda that people felt were noble, people that have been in government for many years. And now it's beginning to be exposed. And Brennan is a target of this investigation, which indeed was launched today by Rod Rosenstein. And he tweeted something that I feel meets the criteria of obstruction of justice, which is a crime. Because he threatened, in that tweet, he said to Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, do something to stop this now. This is the same man that tweeted to Trump, you will go down in the dustbin of history. And one of his friends, Samantha Powers, a former UN ambassador under Obama, also tweeted, don't mess with Brennan. They put enough out in public with their standings that those things can be deemed threats. And so I'll put a title on this, but I believe Brennan should be arrested today, seriously, for the threats and for the obstruction of justice.